Hello everybody, welcome to Wine World TV, the best wine show anywhere. I'm your host, Mark Fusco. Now before we get started, make sure you're smashing that like button and clicking or subscribing. I don't have my script in front of me, so I don't remember all this. And make sure you spread the word to your friends about the best wine show anywhere. So I have Shelly Wilfong here, and she is a podcaster, and she's been doing this for a little while, and this is the third in my series of Interview the Interviewers, or Interview the Media People, and I'm super honored to have her on the show. And Shelly, kind of tell us who you are, how did you get here, and kind of why you do what you do.
Sure, thanks Mark.
Yeah.
This is a great time of year. I love being down here in Horseshoe Bay for the Hill Country Wine Symposium, and I am Shelly Wilfong. I do a Texas wine podcast. So I started podcasting about 5.5 years ago. Before that, I was writing about Texas wine, and I didn't expect to land in the Texas wine world, but I kind of got here and I just fell in love with it and have enjoyed my time and the people that I've gotten to meet, and It's just a great time. So I do a podcast called This is Texas Wine. I'm based in Dallas, but I also spend a lot of time in the Hill Country and around the state going to as many Texas wineries as I can.
Cool. I'll have to share this. I wanted to call, not my thing, because I don't do just Texas, but when I did my Twigga documentary, I wanted to call it This is Texas Wine, and then I realized you had a podcast with that name, and I didn't want to be in a fight with someone.
Great idea, though.
Yes. So I had to call it Titans. So I called it Titans of Twigga or whatever. I don't know. I'm sure there's probably a better name for it, but it's stuck, and I'm happy with it. So why podcasting? I mean, why did you decide to get into it?
Okay, so I was writing about Texas wine primarily for Texas Wine Lover, which is an awesome website and app for Texas wine people to look up wineries and learn about vineyards and the like. And I just realized how much of a demand there was for Texas wine content. And I hadn't really intended in specializing in Texas wine forever, but I just kind of fell in love with it. And it's a very dynamic industry, as you know.
Yes.
And so there's always something going on. There are always exciting developments, a lot of growth. It's, there's the debate, is this an emerging region? Well, call it what you will, but there is a ton of growth and excitement in the Texas wine industry. So I just wanted to be a part of it, and I saw a lot of good things happening that I felt were worthy to be shared. And that's not something that traditional media is always looking for. Like, what's the latest in Texas? They maybe do a little bit of lip service to Texas wine, maybe publish one article every, 2 years or something. But
Right.
I feel like there's enough going on that's positive that deserves a spotlight on it. And so I want other people in the industry to know what their fellow winemakers and winery owners and wine enthusiasts, tasting room associates are doing. I feel like it really elevates the whole industry to just be aware of what we're doing, to share what we're doing. Wineries can share in each other's successes, get ideas. And I am particularly interested in like a deep dive with a winemaker or a business owner or an academic. I just like to really go deep into topics that people are passionate about, and they don't always get the opportunity to share that level of depth. And I've heard from a lot of people in the industry, they love to hear from their colleagues. They don't get to sit down for an hour and hear, a brand's origin story or what's really exciting that's going on in their vineyard that year. And so I just like bringing that to the people who seem to enjoy listening.
Cool. And I kind of feel the same way with, when I go out into the field and do interviews with everybody, get their origin story and get the deep dive stuff. And, especially some wineries don't have like the best like about pages. And
Right.
I complain all the time with my reviews about that. And it's also my way of learning. So I tell people, and I mention this all the time here, but this is my diary, my video diary of my studies. And while this particular episode may not be like a question on an exam, it still helps connect dots.
For sure.
It helps me talk to other people who know things and their extra resources and all that. And nothing else, I just enjoy doing interviews with people.
Yeah.
Especially industry people. About how many episodes a year, or how often do you put episodes out?
Well, I am on episode 108. So I've been doing this for 5.5 years, so I'm not very prolific.
That's fine.
But I have had, perseverance in making it this far, I guess. A lot of podcasts end after like 7 episodes, I think is the average. So I'm doing better than the average. During the season, I do take breaks. Like during harvest, nobody wants to talk to me.
Right.
And around the holidays, like everyone kind of checks out. So I take breaks, and then I try to release kind of in season about every 2 weeks. And they're long episodes, and so they're pretty meaty. At the beginning of the episode, I talk about the news of Texas wine. So who's opened a new tasting room, who's made the paper for whatever reason.
Right.
When winemakers move around, I just feel like that's stuff worth mentioning on the podcast. So there's a news section, and then I go into most often an interview with somebody who's newsworthy. I say I interview the most important people in the Texas wine world. And that is what I attempt to do. There are so many people that are worthy of being interviewed, and I'm just limited by time. I do this all by myself. The editing is pretty cumbersome.
Yeah.
But I hope to be able to maybe increase my production a bit in the new year. That's a goal. So we'll see how it goes.
I totally get it, Shelly. Like, look, this year I made a commitment to only put out something once a month now. With the 3 interviews I did, I might put them out in a little more short period of time, but if nothing else, these 3 interviews are going to be the next 3 episodes that are coming out, and anything else I have in the can is going to be pushed farther down. That's the commitment I'm going to make to the people I'm interviewing, to get their stuff out quick, because I don't want to say, well, I have stuff all the way till like October ready, but I'm doing that because I want to have as much time as I can. I'm going to try to get back into full-time studying this year. And the more I have set and ready to go, I don't need to worry about all the things, the editing and the research and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So when I go visit a winery, the typical thing is, the meet and greet, do a tour, and then tasting interview. What is your kind of typical thing? Is it similar or is it different?
Well, that's a good question. So I have had a lot of different types of interviews.
Yeah.
And when I started this, it was during the COVID pandemic. And so I was only doing virtual interviews. So I use a service called Squadcast. It's like Zoom, but better sound quality. I would have people log in and we would just do an interview. And that works fine, especially for people that I know. But it's not a great way to meet a new person and immediately have rapport and be able to do an interview. So now, when possible, I do go in person and sit down like we're doing. And, depending on if I've been there recently, or maybe we taste wines, maybe we don't. But then we sit down and just have a talk. I've done interviews in barns and, and many tasting rooms and wine bars and in homes and wherever. It's a portable sound system, so I'll take it anywhere. And we usually record for about an hour and just see where the conversation takes us. I just kind of follow my curiosity, and in some ways it's like if I was sitting down at a tasting bar with a winemaker, and just talk about maybe the winery's origin story. What are wines they're excited about? What's coming down the pike? What are they celebrating that year?
Right.
What have you.
Basically, just as if someone can listen in on a conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is the goal of my interviews.
Yeah.
And that's what I told Shelly. It's like, where I look, you can look at the camera, but this is a conversation.
Yeah.
I think of the camera as just someone who's having to be sitting at the table here. Before we get too much further, I do want to thank the Horseshoe Bay Resort. I had 3 places kind of thought of to use today. The one I really wanted to use is actually being used by another convention, because there was no one in there yesterday. And then my backup plan, which you've seen me do lots of interviews in this back hallway, unfortunately there's enough people over there that I didn't feel comfortable making a big thing over there, and I think someone was going to do some business. And there was a third area that was less ideal, and there's someone there too. And so I want to thank the front desk over there. I was like, can I please? And they're like, yeah, sure, as long as you're not bothered by us. I'm like, okay. So I'm doing my best to get limit all the noise. It probably some comes through, but if it's noisy, this is why. Sorry to do that part here, but I do want to thank the Horseshoe Bay Resort. It's a fantastic place. I have stayed here before. right now I don't, but I have stayed here before, and I've loved staying here in the past, and I think they do a great job.
I did.
All right, so back to my actual guest. So have there been, okay, first of all, I'm sure almost everyone's on the list. I tell everyone here, everyone's on the list. It's a matter of time and, being able to coordinate with people. Are there, I'm not asking you to actually pick your favorite kid, but were there some interviews that maybe are standout interviews for any particular reasons? Like, it was the first time you met someone, or the stories were so great that you just were amazed, or you learned so much, or whatever the criteria you want to use for that.
There actually are so many,
Yeah.
and each one is a little different and special in different ways. The one that comes to mind most recently is that this past year I had the opportunity to interview Brian Heath from Heath Family Brands, and I had not met Brian before, but I had done a lot of research. He's in the paper a lot. He's done presentations in Fredericksburg for the Chamber of Commerce and what have you, and so I was able to go to his home, meet him, and do an interview. And what I really appreciate about anybody I interview is when they're just really forthcoming and willing to share something beyond kind of sound bites. They hadn't been overly prepped by their PR team or whatever. Like, they're actually sharing what they actually think. And so I enjoyed that. And I heard from a lot of industry members saying that was a really impactful interview. So I'm glad when I can provide value like that. But for many reasons, I have other favorites too. In some ways, I like to talk to people who are newer on the scene, because it's like nobody knows that much about them, and I can be the first to bring something that's maybe not really out there at all. But I also really, really love to interview the people that have been in the industry a long time and have seen a lot. And, some of the more seasoned Texas wine professionals, I've had Kim McPherson on, I've had Susan Aller. Just those come to mind as being special.
Yeah. The Allers were one of my early interviews, and it was the year before I did my first international trip. So I kind of used Texas as like a guinea pig in a way to kind of learn how to do interviews. And they were one of the first, and the hospitality they showed me was amazing. It was also like I don't think it was 3 hours, but it was a long interview. We had sandwiches afterwards. It was great. So I agree, being able to get, especially the people who've been around for a long time, get their stories, because you don't know when you're not going to be able to get that story.
Right.
And this is not just Texas. This is everywhere, out there. There's been people that, have passed away, and it was like, oh man, I wish I could have gone to wherever part of the world and, gotten their story, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so with Texas, definitely that, and that was actually the impetus of that documentary I did, was to get a lot of people's stories that maybe are, in their 60s, 70s. I don't think anyone's in their 80s, but maybe. But getting some of those people who've been around for decades and get their story. But then I also got some of the younger generation, which was great. You had any challenges, like with just the whole process?
Well, yes.
As
you might expect. So I know that you're very technically savvy, and I am medium at best technically savvy. And so there were some issues early on with recordings and such, and especially because I was doing it virtually.
Yeah.
So the first interview I ever scheduled was on some brand new equipment that I had purchased.
I've never done this before.
And I'm like, okay, I told the person, you need to wear wired headphones. And they didn't have wired headphones, I guess, but I didn't know it until the moment of the interview. And I had a very limited time. And so it was with Chris Brundrett of William Chris Wine Company. And so he comes on with his AirPods. And I think the advances have made it acceptable now to wear AirPods for this particular equipment. But at the time, there was serious feedback, and I could hear it. But I thought, maybe I could work on this in editing. Maybe I can fix these problems that I'm hearing. And
fix
I didn't.
It in the mix, as they say.
I didn't really have the confidence to be like, this just isn't going to work. We'll do it another time. Thanks anyway. And so I just went on with this interview that was on his AirPods, and it sounded horrible. And I even hired someone to try to recover the audio, and it was just impossible.
Yeah.
And so that's just one example. I mean, I've gotten somewhat better with the technology, but also now I just am not going to waste anybody's time on an interview that I'm not going to be able to air for reasons like that.
Yeah.
So I wish I was out in the field more, but I mean, this is a passion project. So, you know, I have a normal life and I'm not able to like go to wineries every day, not even every weekend. And wineries generally don't want to see me when they're busy, which is like
Right.
the weekend. So, you know, I wish I was out there more. There have been some, maybe, I don't know, hurt feelings isn't the right word, but like regions that are like, why aren't you coming to see us more? And so I'd like to get out there more.
Well, trust me, I totally get this. Having done it as long as I have, I've had quite a few of my same issues. Matter of fact, I did a Zoom, or what wasn't Zoom, was a Skype interview with Gary Vaynerchuk, the person that got me actually started doing this
Nice.
whole thing. And his audio was completely like, something happened. And this wasn't the first time I had done Skype, but for whatever reason, I didn't do a setting. And the audio I had of him was like half speed and very quiet. And I think it was somehow picking up from my speakers of my laptop onto my microphone. I don't know how it worked out, but I recovered it. It's not the best. I really need to do another interview with him, like a real proper interview.
Right.
But I've had similar experiences where that, and yes, I've told people, this is what I need from you. Go to this webpage. This is what I need. And, you know, whether they have it or not, whether they went to the webpage or not, yes, we have to overcome whatever those challenges are.
Right.
And sometimes you can't.
And I feel like there are fewer challenges in person, which is yet another reason I prefer to interview in person if I can. Yeah.
Same here. I would say that I'm not going to call myself a pioneer in doing Skype interviews, but nobody was doing Skype interviews pre-COVID. Nobody was doing it.
Yeah.
People were afraid to. My laptop has a webcam. I don't know how to use it. And then once COVID happened, and then really Zoom happened, everyone was ready, but Zoom sucks for video.
Right. Yeah.
Audio is fine. Zoom sucks for video. So yeah, you talked about that. You know, there's places that are asking you haven't been to. Are there places that you feel that you really need to concentrate on, or are there places that you're up in Dallas, so I don't know how much you go to the Texoma area. It's your backyard basically.
Yep.
But are there areas that you really are wanting to try in the future target?
Well, I have big goals. So yes, Texoma is on my list for 2026. There's a lot of excitement going in North Texas right now. I'd also like to do my first interview in East Texas.
Ooh, cool.
I have some plans, semi-firm plans to be out there.
Yeah.
But I'd also like to go to see a Blanc du Bois vineyard in College Station.
That would be
cool.
cool.
So I would like to do an episode devoted to Blanc du Bois. There's a new book coming out about Blanc du Bois, so that's on my list. And, I need to go back to the High Plains more often than I do.
Yeah, I've only been there once, and it was every trip I take, it to me is always amazing. I mean, I always get great hospitality, whether it's Texas or elsewhere. But I went there once, and I have to say that Neil Newsom, got set down with him, but he has been such a great advocate for me.
Oh, nice.
He's here this week.
Yes, I saw him yesterday.
I always thank him for all of his hospitality. And he's like, if you're ever going to go to New Mexico or Colorado, you come stay at the bed and breakfast. Oh, okay. I mean, he let me stay there like the whole week for free. Like that's the level of hospitality that you sometimes get when you do these things.
Definitely.
So I mean, and had breakfast with him like every day, and then went out to the house and looked at the stars. I mean, it was an amazing trip. But yes, I need to go out there again. The hill country is a lot easier for me. I can even make day trips out of it. But Texoma, I've not done really North Texas. I've only been out to East Texas once, and that was go to Messina Hoff, which was again an amazing interview with them. But yeah, there's places that are they're a little bit too far flung.
Yeah.
Even though they're within the state.
This is a big state, and there are wineries all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's was somewhat of a topic. There are some topics that we maybe went yesterday? I know we went to a couple of the same seminars. Are there some highlights from the event so far that you want to comment on or talk about?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, there are so many good sessions, and I hate having to pick because I want to be in two places at once,
Right.
and that's basically impossible. But one of my top events that I've attended so far was the tasting of top Texas wines.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I didn't get to go to the tastings yesterday.
So Brian Chogley from Sandy Road Vineyards has put together a website compiling all of the gold medal winning wineries and gold medal winning wines in the state of Texas. And he does it annually. He updates it, I think, with 32 different competition results.
I'll make
and
sure
so,
to link that up.
Yes. And so at the end of the year, it shows, which are the top rated grape varieties and what are the top rated wineries. And then he breaks it down by region. And so we did a blind tasting. So we did 2 whites and 2 reds. And then their winemakers from these wineries that were some of the top in the state were there to talk about their wines. And so it was a lot of fun. I always look forward to the results coming out from Top Texas Wines, because that is exactly why I wanted to do this podcast, to say Texas is making great wines. Just look. And if you're not able to find them, we have resources that can help you identify some wines you might want to try.
Right.
So that was definitely a highlight. That's the first one that comes to me.
This was a blind tasting, but the winemakers were there, right? So
yes.
So you knew at least...
We knew the wineries.
You knew the wineries.
Yes.
Okay. So,
Yes.
I mean, but it still was a blind tasting. You didn't know which wine you're getting from which winery.
Exactly.
Were there any standout wines? I mean, how many did you
They
have?
were
Like
all
4?
standout.
Like, you're like 4? Of course they're all standout.
They were all great.
No,
they really were.
Did you have a favorite kid?
Well, let me say this. I appreciate the 2 whites and the 2 reds. I don't think Texas white wines get enough press.
No,
Texas white wines, I mean, I feel like Texas does an excellent job at white wines, and more so every year. And the 2 that were on the panel were both great. There was an Albarino from Michael Ross Winery, and there was a Chardonnay from Sandy Road Vineyards.
Okay,
People didn't think Texas could grow great Chardonnay, but the Hill Country has several great examples that I can think of, and I'm sure there are more across the state, but that was definitely one that is a favorite.
And over the years, there's many people that go, Texas can't grow insert name of, right? But then we have to remind everybody, and James Tidwell reminded us yesterday, this is the size of France.
Yes.
Like, he was advocating there shouldn't be a variety, like a single variety for the state. I mean, Oregon kind of has a single variety, white and red. Their climate and all that is very conducive to Burgundian stuff, but it doesn't mean they can't do Alsatian stuff. They can't do other things. You're not going to have the North Willamette Valley do probably Cabernet Sauvignon, but the Rogue Valley, Southern or Columbia Valley into Washington can do it. But yeah, you can get great Cab, Chardonnay, Pinot Grigio. There's even some really good Rieslings out there. There's not a lot of places maybe for that grape, but there's going to be a spot somewhere. It's just a matter of the vineyard people or the winery recognizing that just because it's a recognizable name may not be the best grape for your specific location.
Right.
And as much as I love Viognier and Texas Viognier, that is like the white grape that everyone kind of just like gravitated towards, and there's lots of them out there. But it's nice to see there's other things like, the Blanc du Bois. There's some really cool Blanc du Bois out there too. So, we don't concentrate on white wine in Texas as much. And honestly, white wine doesn't get as much press, doesn't get as much attention, just in general.
True.
Any other topics from yesterday? Or anything that you're looking forward to do, and you're going to be a moderator?
Yes, one of my panelists just walked by. Sorry, a little distracted. He's making muscle arms at me.
There you go.
Yes, I have a panel this afternoon. It's the closing panel, and it is a panel of 6 very big personalities in the Texas wine industry.
They are some rock stars. I cannot wait to go to this.
Yes, they're a lot of fun and a lot of big energy.
Yeah.
And so basically this is being billed as a spill the tea, like insiders tell all. And so we're going to have a lot of fun. I mean, this conference theme has been Texas Wine Rising, and there have been great ideas about how to take things back to your business and, run a more efficient business and make better wine and advances in the viticulture. But this is just really for fun.
Right.
Maybe it'll be inspirational, but I can guarantee there will be a few laughs.
I hope so.
So I think that we are going to try to record it to release as a podcast episode.
You should.
It may require significant editing, but
If you need some extra microphones, I can
Yes,
provide some.
yes.
I have 4 of these. You're more than welcome to use them. It may take me a minute to get you the files.
yeah,
But
I think the hotel's got us covered,
All right,
but
cool.
it should be a good time.
Yeah.
I've asked all the panelists, just to give you a bit of a preview, I've asked the panelists to give me a walk-up song, a Texas wine walk-up song, or just a personal walk-up song.
Yes.
And their choices, it's going to be kind of a like, guess who said this? It is hilarious. Like, I didn't even have to write any jokes because their song choice is the punchline. So
wow,
it'll be
I
a good
don't know
time.
what mine would be if I had one. Being a musician, if I really was going to do it, I'd probably just use one of my own. But
There you go.
but I don't have any lyrics. I don't really write lyrics. That's cool. I'm excited about this.
Yes.
And off the top of my head, I know Jennifer's on there, and I interviewed her.
Oh.
I can't remember who else is on your panel. I may have also done interviews with some of them.
Yes.
But I'm excited to do that. Anything else from yesterday that maybe topics that you thought were really cool, or maybe topics that needed to be talked about?
Well, I really appreciated James Tidwell's keynote address, not just because I got a shout out, which was very sweet,
You did.
but
She got a shout out. Yes.
that was
absolutely.
very generous of James. But he talked about kind of where we are in the Texas wine industry and some of the challenges that have happened over the past decades in Texas wine, and then what we need to do going forward to really put Texas wine out there. And he has some challenges, that we need to be in front of more people that are tasting wines in an international setting, people with an international palate. And then the conversation that Jessica Dupuis had later on stage really built on what James had shared, and she talked about some of the recent press that Texas has received and what were some of the points that the reviewers made, especially around the Vintners Cup, which is the program that Texas Monthly does with the Texas Department of Agriculture, and Jessica and 2 master sommeliers are the judges, and they pick a case, an ideal case of Texas wine. So 12 choices. And it's a big deal. And these wineries get a lot of press from Texas Monthly. And her point really was that if you're not entering competitions and putting your wines out there, you can't be mad if no press pays attention to you. Because how are they going to know?
Right.
So you kind of have to take the first step if you are looking for more press coverage.
Exactly. I get it. Not every winery wants to do this, and there's an expense involved. They may be smaller production, and they may be just happy with getting their DTC is great. The direct to consumer, or going out from the tasting room, they're fine with that, and there's nothing wrong with that. James even said, if that what your business model is, that's fine. But if you're looking to expand, you want that recognition, you're looking to expand, well, you're going to have to make certain decisions with how you do things, your business model. And my contention, honestly, is we have too many boutique wineries in order to be able to supply large amounts of the country and large amounts of the world with enough Texas wine. It doesn't mean we don't have Texas wineries that can do this. But I kind of feel like, and it was somewhat of a subject yesterday with Jeff about how many acres of grapes we actually have, and then going to a tailgate last year and people talking about fruit being dropped because or not being purchased because downturn in the global wine consumption and all that. But even if all the grapes could have been harvested, at least Jeff feels we probably couldn't have actually fermented all of it. Not everyone has enough total capacity. I don't think we do, but they said we could have. I don't know. But yes, we need more wineries to be able to get into distribution. And unfortunately, that means they have to take a hit on the profits. And James even talked about a fair price. What that means is different for every winery, and it's also what the consumer is. But I've said it for the last couple years, either here to winemakers or in Facebook groups when I am on Facebook. And I tell people $20 is the price point people want, not just Texas. And it doesn't mean they don't want the $40 and above. There was a topic yesterday of $40 and above is like rising. And I'm like, that's fine. But when I interact with people, they want $20 or less. And they don't care where it came from. They want a good wine at a good price. They may go to 25 or 30 if I really tell them, oh, it's an awesome wine and you should try it, whether it's from Texas or not. But I don't have the numbers, but I have talked to a few people that tell me it can be done in this state.
Well, I see Kim McPherson doing it, so I need to go back and listen to his words of wisdom. But I know he wants to see more great Texas wines in distribution. And
Yes.
that was actually a point that James made that I thought was good was, and if you're in distribution, like don't put something in distribution that's kind of like your leftovers or
Right.
just because you're going to, do something of a lesser quality. You want to go out there with something that is representative of who you are.
Yeah.
So,
And sure, if you're thinking, well, I'll put my best wine out. Well, if it's going to be $50 on the shelf because you sell it for $50 in your tasting room, yeah, you might get people who know your wine and don't have to worry about someone like me convincing them to spend $50. And again, this has nothing to do with Texas. If I'm trying to convince somebody to buy a $50 California cab, whether it's from Napa or not, or a $50 French wine or $50 Italian wine, they're still hesitant if they don't know the wine style or the winemaker or the winery, whatever. They're still hesitant. It's $50. So this is not a slam on Texas per se. It's just that if you want to be positioned to be successful as far as sales, you have to understand there's a range
Sure.
of price points you need to be able to hit. And if you say, like to your point, well, don't put out your worst wine. Well, we don't want that. But if you're I don't want to say worse, but maybe your not best example is something that you sell for $15 at the winery, that may not be the best thing to put out into the market. Or maybe it is. I don't know. This is why I do what I do.
Exactly.
This is why they do what they do. And I just give them the feedback of what I have to do because, like I tell them, I have to sell your wine and I don't have the benefit of having a vineyard, the winery, and I always say this, the dog. I don't have that, and the music and the niceties. I don't have the benefit of doing that. I can't tell your story. I can only tell your story as much as I know it.
Well, you can't maybe tell every winery's story. I understand that. But
Yeah.
I think that when people start to advocate for Texas wine and explain to consumers, either on the restaurant floor or in retail places or at your home when you're serving wine to your friends, start telling the Texas wine story, I think it can be really compelling. The story of the industry from many, many years ago, starting in the 1650s to the more current modern Texas wine industry, the story of individual bottles and vineyards and the great diversity that is Texas wine.
Yeah.
There's a lot to get excited about. And I think that people are catching on, and I love to see it. And I thank you for all you've done to advance the cause.
Yeah, and let me clarify. When I am selling a wine, whether it's from Texas or not, if I'm selling it to you, if I'm giving you something, I may not know the origin story of that winery, but if I know the quality's there, and if I can personalize it, like, for instance, we sell Messina Hoff's Ports of Call, right? It's a port-style wine, and Paul Bonarigo was at the Houston Rodeo, and I was judging with him, and I asked him just to make sure I wasn't telling lies. Same main grapes for port, of course, same style, right? And it's 15% alcohol, which means I'm able to sell it, right? Not versus 20%. Is it exactly like port? No, but it's going to be pretty close. It's close enough for the vast majority of people out there. A port aficionado might not think it's great, or they might think it's great. It may be a cool example. But that helps me. And then I'd be like, I was just with the winemaker. So if I can say that, like if I'm Tomasi Amarone, I interviewed him. I'm like, last year or 2 years ago, I interviewed this guy. This is an amazing thing. And he told me this, blah, blah, blah. And so if I have little stories, no matter where it came from, but in the Texas section, I can be like, I know these people, I know these people, I know these people. This, I don't know them, but they make great wine, that type of stuff. And that's any category of what I sell. I have direct experience with some of these things, or I at least know reputation-wise.
Sure.
And to me, it's like any brand. You have brand trust, If you trust a brand, whether it's wine or clothing or jewelry or cars or whatever, then if you know that quality's there, then you're going to trust that other item from them.
And think how many more data points you have as Texas wine continues to get press attention.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, I know customers love scores, and they love to know that, you know, this winemaker's received awards for their red wines or what have you. So as long as you and others who are in these positions continue to update their kind of bank of stories about Texas, I think that the consumer is gonna love Texas wine.
Yeah.
If they haven't already tasted it, they should taste it now, because Texas wine has never been better.
And part of the reason I come here, besides it's cool stuff, most of the stuff on here is not going to be an exam, but I get to see all my Texas wine friends, right? And I can also bring back any stories or any tastings or anything. I can bring it back into my professional, my pay the bills job, and I can use that again as sales techniques, right? It's just like going to TechSom, same thing. I don't do video of everything, right? So not everything gets into an interview, but the interactions I have are very important for me personally and then professionally. Absolutely. I'm assuming the same pretty much for you, right?
You got it.
Yeah.
You got it.
Well, Shelly, we've been going for a little while. I appreciate you sitting down with me. Is there anything we haven't covered that you want to talk about?
I don't think so. I hope that people will just continue to explore Texas wines, and if you haven't discovered any that you like, I bet this guy can give you some suggestions.
I give you suggestions, and you should listen to her podcast. I did admit to her I don't listen to her podcast, but it has nothing to do with her. I don't listen to podcasts at all anymore, except for music podcasts when I'm traveling 2 hours somewhere, and these are like techno electronic music podcasts. So it's just driving music for me. I used to have a longer commute, like half hour or more each way, and I listened to several different podcasts, and now I have like a 15-minute commute, and it takes too long to get through, especially long format podcasts.
That's true.
I can't listen to them at home. I will fall asleep.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's fun for a lot of people who are doing vineyard work, or
Yes.
a lot of people in the Hill Country, especially, or going from the Hill Country to the High Plains and back, have a long commute.
Absolutely.
They have a lot of time to kill, and so I'm just talking in their ear quite often. So.
And that's why I think podcasts are fantastic if you can figure out a way to use it. I don't have a way at home that I can use it. I can't use it as background because I can't concentrate on what moving. I've tried to be like just on the computer, like doing stuff, and play someone's podcast. And especially if they get into like some technical stuff, like I listened to a computer security one. Like I have to pay attention to that. I can't do two things at once. So, but absolutely, I mean, I hear so many great things about your podcast.
Thank you.
And this is why I wanted you on here. And I really appreciate that you're on here. And hopefully you get some more listeners.
Great.
And more people going, Shelly, I need to be on your podcast.
I've got a little bit of that.
Yeah,
I've got a long list
absolutely.
of people I'd like to interview. So thank you, Mark.
Yeah, my
Nice to see
pleasure.
you.
Absolutely. So let's just wrap it up, everybody. Just maybe make sure you remember to click, like, and subscribe. Don't lick the screen. That's kind of weird. And we'll see everybody again next time.
Cheers.